European astronauts and also where we make human spaceflight and space exploration happen. Not the only place, of course, but one of the unique places in Europe where we make it happen. Tim is here today because he was the third astronaut to directly return after his landing here to the European Astronaut Center. It's what we call the direct return, and I'm very happy to say that this was now a routine operation for the first time. The first 2 times it was more kind of a test phase, but we have now entered into routine operations, and it shows the capabilities that we are continuously building here in Europe and in the European Astronaut Center. Of course, we cannot do this alone, so I would like to thank the partners who helped us with us. I see a lot of people from DLR here and from NVHAP, the great medical facility just next door, where we do all the science activities with him and the medical tests with him. So without them it would certainly not be possible. So thank you very much, the team of NVHAP. And also I see some of the military people here. We have of course special access and direct access to the military airport just here next door, which makes the direct return very comfortable for our astronauts. So I would also like to thank our colleagues from the military airport. Last but not least, the partners. Tim is doing a lot of science, not only science for ESA, but also for our international partners, NASA, JAXA and CSA, our Canadian friends. They are also here and they work in the NVHAP facility to do all the life science experiments that we have conducted throughout this mission. So also thank them for their support and for coming over here. And last but not least, of course, the whole EAC team. A lot of people here standing on the balcony that are sitting in the audience and that have worked very hard over the last couple of days to make this direct return a success and to give you all the opportunity to talk to them. So, EAC team, thank you very much. Well done, guys. With this, I would like to give the word to Dave, who is going to introduce a little bit the importance of this mission in the larger context of our exploration activities in Europe.
Thanks, Frank, and hopefully it's a few slides on here. I know you're all here to talk to Tim and find out about his mission, and I can't possibly describe it 100th as well as he's going to be able to. But what I wanted to do was place his mission in the context of our whole program, our human spaceflight program, our exploration program for the future. Because this is a really important year for the European Space Agency. We're going to have one of our so-called ministerial conferences where decisions will be made about the future direction, and we have some really exciting ideas and future plans in mind. I want to explain that and show how Tim's mission has contributed to it. Because of all the space activities, exploration is probably the one that's most exciting. It's driven by the combination of curiosity and opportunity. The curiosity to go out there and discover, and the opportunity to bring back to planet Earth discoveries that have a value to us. And only 2 years ago, member states of European Space Agency, the ministers, agreed our new strategy for space exploration. It's built around 3 destinations: low Earth orbit, the Moon and Mars. Low Earth orbit has obviously demonstrated its value as a place to live and work through the International Space Station. And the Moon has immense scientific value and has a potential for future science because of the discoveries we made since the days of Apollo, because there's so much more to discover. And finally, Mars is vital, the red planet, a key science target, has potential for past or present life. But whilst exploration without science is just tourism, exploration is much more. It's also about the innovation, the technology we can bring back. It's the great proving ground for technologies like life support systems, energy, robotics. It's innovation for our common good. And everything we do in exploration is in international cooperation, and nothing more than the space station demonstrates the value in these difficult times of the potential of humanity working together on a common goal. And our future definitely depends on the citizens, exciting citizens of tomorrow, with the values of teamworking and the positive impact of science and technology on society. And the European Astronaut Corps certainly embody those ideals. So of course you're here today to hear from Tim, but I wanted especially to have the opportunity to prove that Tim is part of a team And that's why Thomas is here. He's our next astronaut going to the International Space Station towards the end of this year and continuing the work that Tim has been doing. But it's vital to say that their missions are part of a wider vision of space exploration. So I'm going to say a little bit about what's coming in the future and what the opportunities are and decisions to be made in the conference that will happen in CERN at the end of this year. We have three goals, very simply, to align the projects we're doing to that strategy that ministers agreed a couple of years ago. We call it an envelope programme, a single framework to join together our ambitions in robotic and human spaceflight and plot a roadmap for the next decade of discovery. A second decision, absolutely key in this, is whether Europe wants to join the other four partners in the Space Station programme in continuing operations beyond 2020 and out to 2024. We think the answer should be yes. And thirdly, we need to complete the ongoing projects and plan for the future. So there's a really exciting menu of projects that go beyond already in hand and coming along. So think of it, in 2018 the whole world will be watching when NASA launches the first of the Space Launch Systems, this giant rocket, bigger than anything we've seen since the days of Apollo. And on board that will be the first Orion service module built here in Europe, our first human-rated spacecraft. Later, a second unit will be launched with astronauts to go round the moon and return them back to Earth, the first deep space voyage in more than 50 years. Meanwhile, astronauts will continue to serve aboard the space station doing really important science. Coming closer to time, in October, our ExoMars mission, which is nearly halfway on its journey to Mars right now, will arrive, go into orbit and deploy its lander onto the surface of Mars. And then we're looking forward to the ExoMars rover mission in 2020, the first dedicated life search mission ever attempted. But it's not just that. We've got the moon as well. We're well underway now, drawing on the heritage of Rosetta and Philae and ExoMars to build technology to go to the surface of the moon with the Lunar Resource mission in 2021. And then finally, and perhaps most tantalising, what are we going to do in human spaceflight into the future? We have an exciting possibility that the space station partners, including ESA, are talking about right now. And I want to show how that links back to Tim's mission. Let me take you on a thought experiment about 10 years into the future. After 25 years of service, the International Space Station is coming to the end of its life. But now, 1,000 times further out in space, a new star has risen. A human outpost in deep space, located far out, where the Earth and Moon's gravity balance, a kind of crossroads in space. This is our deep space habitat, our new place to live and learn how to work in space, a kind of base camp for exploring the solar system and reaching back down to the surface of the Moon. An international crew of 4 are demonstrating how to live on the minimum of resources, perhaps the most environmentally friendly community ever, using solar power for energy, growing food to eat, and recycling water and waste. They are testing technologies for protecting future astronauts from deadly radiation on their journey to Mars and back. And their ship uses electric propulsion to undertake shakedown cruises into deep space. They shuttle to and from it with that Orion vehicle I mentioned earlier. They can look down on the Moon and untroubled by humans for more than 50 years. We want to go back there. We've barely scratched the surface of the discoveries to be made. So imagine ESA has sent a rover to the surface of the Moon. It's going to go into the dark, shadowed craters of the Moon to discover the water, the frozen materials that might help our astronauts live on the Moon in the future. Its progress is being watched by an astronaut, an astrogeologist, back aboard the space habitat, safe aboard. When the rover's job is done, when it's gone into the dark places, taken its samples, they can be launched back to the deep space habitat and put on the next Orion going home. Is this all science fiction? Well, no, this is exactly the scenario that Tim demonstrated about 6 weeks ago when with a Meteoron experiment that we did, which involved the International Space Station, ESA's control centres, and the Airbus Mars Yard in the UK. And if our ministers agree, it is the vision that we want to make a reality. And I think it would be a great legacy from Tim's mission. Thank you.
Thank you, David. So back on Earth now, we said it, Tim, 186 days in space. It's been almost 3 days on Earth, not entirely. How do you feel right now?
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, I'm feeling a lot better than I did on Saturday lunchtime, that's for sure. But what's amazing is, again, how quickly the human body adapts to a new environment. And it's something I experienced when I first went up into space and was amazed after just 24 hours living on board the space station, how quickly I was able to function. It's a bit slower coming the other way, I can tell you, and it's a bit harder. But after 3 days, I've just been doing some rehabilitation training with our team here at EAC and doing some cycling, some cross-trainer, some balance exercises. So even just after 3 days, I'm feeling fantastic.
Well, thank you. We'll go through the room with the first questions here. We'll start here.
Tim, welcome back. Would you do it again? And if you did it again, what does your wife think of that?
Thank you, David. Yes, I would do it again in a heartbeat. And I can say that happily because I've already spoken to my wife about it. She's extremely supportive. And, you know, of course, I'd like to put the family first for a while now. And life is all about having a balance. And as a father and a husband, the balance now is to have some family time. But working and living on board the International Space Station is the best place you could possibly wish as a professional to be. You're in an environment where you're so well supported, you're very aware that you're doing absolute cutting-edge technology. In one day, you may be touching 6 or 7 experiments in one day, and you're very aware that these experiments are the result of hundreds, if not thousands of people in each of their areas of speciality, and you're the person who's executing this and running the experiment in low Earth orbit. So it's a hugely privileged place to work, and that is very rewarding and very satisfying, so I would go back in a heartbeat.
That's good news for us.
Tim, hi, Thomas from Sky News. You're looking a lot better than when I saw you at Cologne Airport, I can say. Tell me, describe the descent. We know about the mechanics, but what was going through your mind? What were you seeing? What were you smelling? What were you hearing? What was going through your mind as all this was going on?
The descent is a really exciting ride, and it, you know, you've got two minds really. One is as a professional, and certainly as a test pilot, I was really wanting to analyse the spacecraft, thinking about the dynamics of what was happening. But at the same time, you can't help the sort of boy inside you that's enjoying this fantastic ride back from space. And we have practiced this so much, we've trained for it in Star City, so you're very aware of everything that's going to happen. And in actual fact, the undocking is fairly uneventful, and the first couple of orbits in space are uneventful. You're just waiting for that deorbit burn. And it's from the deorbit burn onwards that things get really exciting. And, you know, the deorbit burn is quite a gentle burn, so it's not like you feel a huge amount of deceleration during that. But if things are going to go wrong on landing, they will probably go wrong during that deorbit burn. So it's somewhere where you're very, very aware of controlling all the systems and making sure everything is functioning normally. Because if that burn goes long or if it goes short, you're going to miss your target. Your re-entry profile will be very different from what it should be. But I was aware, having spoken to lots of astronauts about the descent, what to expect. Separation was very dynamic, and again, in my previous military career, I had the pleasure of flying some Russian helicopters, and so I'm very familiar with Russian engineering and Russian technology, and it's robust. It works very well, but it's very solid. And when a solid spacecraft is designed to break into 3 parts, it doesn't do it quietly. It does it with a number of pyrotechnic bolts that all go off one after the other, sounding like a very heavy machine gun. And the spacecraft really does blow itself apart, which is really quite exciting to be in the centre of this. And these pyrotechnic bolts are, you know, only a few millimetres of metal away from your ear when they go off. And then from then on, the spacecraft is tumbling in a fairly controlled manner, just waiting to enter the Earth's atmosphere. But also, it's great being sat next to the window because you're able to look out. And at that point, I started seeing sparks and flames coming off because all of the multi-layer insulation around the spacecraft is burning away. So it's very exciting to see that. And again, I was warned about that and told that's absolutely normal. Expect to see flames coming past the window. And then once that's burnt off, you get a few moments where you're still waiting for the G's to build up. You haven't really entered the Earth's atmosphere, but you're down at almost 100 kilometers. And I looked out the window, and having spent 6 months watching planet Earth from 400 kilometers in a very controlled attitude, to to look out the window and see Earth approaching at 100 kilometers in what looked like a fairly uncontrolled attitude was really quite surprising, and it really got a very strong sensation that you are just falling back to the planet. And then the G's start to build up. And the G's actually come on fairly slowly, so you get plenty of time to get used to that. But towards the end, you are doing 4.5 Gs, which after 6 months of zero gravity is quite a lot. So you're having to control your breathing and work on that. You know, the capsule, it gets very hot, extremely hot, and so you're working hard against the G, you're working hard against the heat. Your visors are down, you don't have much ventilation inside, you're having to read the systems as well and check the spacecraft. So there's an awful lot going on, and at the same time you're trying to memorize the experience. But no, it's a wonderful ride, and then probably the most dynamic part is when the parachute opens, the drogue chute, and you get about 20 seconds where the capsule is being completely flung around, and you just have to really hold on and wait for it all to stop. I was told actually that would stop with a big jolt as the main chute opened, but in our case it didn't. The main chute must have been a very gentle opening, so I wasn't even aware that the main chute had opened. And the clock was running, and I'm very aware of exactly what should happen, exactly what time. And the time had gone beyond the point at which the main chute had opened. So for a second I was concerned. I looked across to Yuri, and he was just sat there, so relaxed and cool. I thought, well, if we didn't have a main parachute opening, he wouldn't be looking as cool as that. So I was quite comfortable at that stage that we must be under the main canopy. And then you get a few moments of respite where you can gather your thoughts and get yourself ready for the landing.
Tim, Dominic Reynolds, 5 News. Welcome back. Nice to see you. Astronauts who've been to space in the past have said that once you come back to Earth, it's a slightly different Earth, that it feels different, that it might smell different. Is that what you've experienced?
Do you know, not really for me. It's lovely, it's wonderful, it's familiar. It's everything that I missed when I was in space, and it's very true what people say, that when you're on Earth, you wish you're in space, and when you're in space, you wish you're on Earth. So you do think about Earth a lot when you're in space, and you do miss the fresh air and the smells and everything. So no, it's nice to be back in a very familiar environment. And I meant what I said about the rain. It's something that you don't feel up there. Obviously, you don't feel any weather. So any weather down here whatsoever feels unique, and it feels very special.
Another question, yeah.
Hello, Coach. Welcome back, Tim. On the 25th anniversary of her spaceflight, Helen Sharham said to us that she hoped you weren't the last British astronaut, and she wanted the UK government to make a further commitment to human spaceflight. Would you agree with her? Do you want the British children that you've inspired to be able to follow in your footsteps, should they wish to?
I would agree wholeheartedly, really, and to echo Dave's words as well about where we're going. I mean, you heard about the exciting future ahead. Life doesn't stop with the International Space Station, and already the European Space Agency is so active and so involved with such a successful human spaceflight program, and then to look forward to from beyond Earth orbit to the Moon and to Mars and exploration of the solar system. It's extremely important the UK is involved in all of that, and we need to be involved now, and we need to give our industry a chance to develop what they need to support human spaceflight. We need to give our scientific community a chance as well to get on board with the microgravity science and the other research that we're doing for these future missions. And if we're not involved now, then we are simply going to miss the boat. And we have a huge space sector. It's very dynamic in the UK. It's growing at a vast rate, and it's going to be an incredibly successful space sector. But to make it even more so, we need to be continuing our contributions to human spaceflight, and we certainly need to be inspiring those young minds that hopefully I've touched a few during these 6 months, to show them that, look, you can be an astronaut and you can join the European Space Agency and you can go to the moon.
It's Arthur Garabani here from Deutsche Welle, Germany's international broadcaster. Tim Peake, welcome back. You've made it all the way back to Earth. We're in Europe. I've got to ask you the obvious question. You're going to stay, you're going to go. Which way are you going to vote? We want to know, following on from what you've been saying in terms of European space exploration,
Okay.
How do you feel about that?
It is an important decision to make, obviously. It's very important for the UK. And so, Thursday is a huge day. But voting is a very personal thing, and I'm somebody who believes that voting should remain a private choice. So I'm not here to tell you which way I'm going to vote on Thursday.
I will tell you, but I still vote.
No way.
Hi Tim, Georgina Campbell from the Oxford Mail. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
I just wanted to know how important is the Harwell campus in Oxfordshire to Britain's role in sort of space exploration and scientific discovery?
The Harwell campus is really important. I love visiting there, and I look forward to the next visit there as well, which I hope will be fairly soon. It's really a central hub in the UK for what we're doing in so many areas of our cutting technology, and certainly in our space sector. It's a very exciting place to visit. It's a very dynamic place to visit as well. And of course, now that the European Space Agency has its base on the Harwell campus as well, it gives it that extra element. So no, I'm delighted with what's going on there, the work that's going on there. I really look forward to going back there very soon.
You'll have to let us know.
Absolutely.
Another question from David?
Tim, you took some incredible photographs while you were up there. Do you have a favourite picture that you brought back with you? And did you prefer looking down at Earth or out of space?
That's a very good question, and I haven't had a chance really to look through them all. There are probably about 5 favourites I think I've got. And the interesting thing is that those favourite photographs were completely unplanned. They were the ones where, I was brushing my teeth one night and just thought, hey, why not brush my teeth in the cupola and look out? And suddenly saw the Milky Way like I'd never seen it before. I grabbed the camera and got a shot of it. And they're the ones that are really special. A sunset that you just happen to capture. There are plenty of photographs of Earth and things like capturing the pyramids are very satisfying as well, because that's pretty hard to do from a vehicle that's moving at 25 times the speed of sound. So it's nice when you can capture something that you've been wanting to get a photograph of. But I'd say the really special ones are those where I wasn't expecting to get anything, and you're suddenly rewarded with a wonderful aurora or a thunderstorm.
Yeah, another question. Yeah.
Elinor Alex, Kölner Stadtanzeiger. Hello, welcome back to. I just wondered whether you have time to dream at the ISS. I know that you're busy working all day long, so in Germany they say the first thing you dream on a new surrounding will come true. So what did you dream on ISS?
Well, I see you were actually meaning really to dream, as in when you were asleep. I thought you meant sort of metaphorically, which is actually a really good question in both cases, because you have to make time to dream on the space station, as in to be very aware of your situation. Because something we do, all of us as human beings, is we normalise everything in order to be able to function. And this is the first thing you do on board the space station is you make it normal. Because if you realise where you were and what you were doing, with this huge wow factor, you simply couldn't function on a day-to-day basis. So you get up in the morning, you make a cup of tea, you have a bacon sandwich, and you go to work. And it's normal, because it has to be normal, otherwise we can't work. But if you do that day after day after day, that's the wrong. You need to make time to be able to say, hang on a second, I'm going to give myself 10 minutes here and just sit in the cupola and realise where I am, look out, and or wherever it might be around the space station, that you need to take that time to reflect on your position and enjoy it. In terms of actual real dreams at night, I didn't dream very much at all in space, and at first my dreams were of being back on Earth, and then you kind of get mixed weird dreams towards the end where you're on Earth but you're floating around in buildings and you're clearly in zero gravity. It gets a little bit messed up.